Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of Outside of Life, where I chat with inspiring artists and create various art-related videos. My name is Eva and my guest today is Wouter Tulp, and in this episode you will learn why quitters never win and winners never quit, and how he became a character designer.
I didn't wait for a big studio to call me and then become a character designer. Basically what I did was, from now on, I am a character designer, regardless that someone's paying me to do it. So when I did a children's book, I would just do extra sketches of these characters, do turnarounds, and come up with backstories for them, and I started to post that online.
Wouter is a longtime freelance illustrator and character designer from Netherlands. He has worked with clients on children's books, magazines, newspapers, book covers, and now mostly works with animation studios like SONY Animation, Pixar, Cartoon Saloon, and others. So please welcome Wouter Tulp, and let's get to the interview. So welcome everyone to the next episode of Outside of Life, and I'm super happy to have Wouter here. Hi!
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. And then let's just jump right away to your background, and maybe you can share some of your biggest turning points, which got you where you are now, something like the biggest decisions of your art career.
So let's start at the beginning. I come from a little town called Maasluis. It's near Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and I grew up there with my family. I have two brothers and a sister, and we were always a very creative family. So we were always making music, or we would have clay on the table and everybody would create something, or sing or create poems, or there was always something creative happening. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was really natural to be artistic from a very early age. But I think I was the only one. I would always bring friends at home, and we would draw. And then when I was about 12 years old, I used to ask friends, "Come on, let's go and draw," and they just didn't want to do that anymore.
Like, that's over.
Suddenly, I was the only one still doing it. So I just kept on drawing. Then I was in high school. I didn't really have art lessons there. Mm-hmm. I was more into music at the time. And actually teachers used to tear out pages out of my notebooks. What? Where I was drawing because they didn't approve of it. And then I went to art school, mm-hmm. Did illustration there. Actually it was, for me, the question wasn't what do I want to become when I grow up. Mm-hmm. It was more like, I love to draw. So mm-hmm. what can I do that will make it possible for me to just draw all the time? So then when I was in high school, I heard of mm-hmm. art school and illustration. I had never heard of illustration. So I thought, well, can you draw? Yes. Okay, let's do it. So, and I had no thoughts beyond art school. Mm-hmm. I was just only focusing on the drawing part of it. And maybe that's still what I do, it's just, that's what I want to do. So I make my decisions based on that.
How did you set the goal for yourself? Like, okay, I want to do, maybe character design, or like, did they tell you like this is a part of the illustration where you are in the school, or when did you develop this, love for designing characters?
Well, that came later. I think it evolved. When I started out, Facebook and Google didn't even exist, I think. So it was really me going around the country with my big portfolio and just literally visiting publishers and showing my work. And I was happy with any job they would give me. Mm-hmm. I was just hoping to make a living, so anything I could do. One of the first things that I got to do was a children's book. Mm-hmm. The Netherlands is such a small country, so you have to be a jack of all trades. Yeah. At least that was my experience. To make a living, you need to take on everything mm-hmm. there is. so I did children's books, I did commercials, I did and anything you can imagine, and gradually when the internet started to evolve, I learned how about character design. I had no idea before that it even existed or that movies were created in that way. So when I saw the art of the Monsters Inc. Book, that was actually the first time that I really was introduced to the fact that these movies were actually drawn by people, and it looked so amazing. So that was basically when I decided that's what I want to do. Because it wasn't about the final product. It was really about the conceptual part of it, the thinking process, and everything looked so alive, so sketchy. And but at the time, I still had no idea how to get in touch with studios, or that was far away, and there is no big movie industry here. So it took a couple of years, and basically what I did was I didn't wait for a big studio to call me and then become a character designer. Basically what I did was, from now on, I am a character designer, regardless or the fact that someone's paying me to do it. I'm a character designer. So when I did a children's book, I would just do extra sketches of these characters, do turnarounds, and come up with backstories for them, and I started to post that online. So I think that's what you communicate to people then, that you are a character designer. And it's not the resume that says you are a character designer. It's the things that you actually create.
So what would you think is the kind of the thing you learned which helped you to progress in your designing the characters the most?
You mean technically?
Yeah, it may be also like technical skill, or how you put emotion to your characters. Something which was like your aha moment, when you were like, okay, this is making them so much better.
I think when I realized that the characters are actors, so you want to relate with them as if they are real people. So it's not just a drawing of a nice character. It's really somebody that when you start to think, this is something this character would never do, then you're thinking of it as a person. If you think of your friends and you think of skydiving, well, this friend would do this and this other friend would never do this. It says something about who they are, and I think understanding them as persons rather than drawings is what really makes a change.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because as you also mentioned that you were coming up with the background stories for them and different expression sheets, I guess, and just poses for, like, if it is a shy character or like angry or strong character, so you would differentiate them also maybe color-wise, or it was mainly like sketching and the poses, which was the most important for you?
Well, the thing that I learned gradually, I wasn't aware at the beginning. At the beginning, I was really drawing a nice, well-designed character for the story, and later I began to realize, especially working for bigger productions, that it's not really about this great drawing. It's the designs. It's not that I create a design and that ends up in the movie. It's really a process that I don't do by myself. It's a collaboration of many artists, and a lot of the work is actually giving ideas to the director. If this is the story you want to tell, then this might be a solution for this character, or this might be a solution. And all those ideas, they come from me, but they also come from the story artist. They even come from environment artists. Everybody thinks about the story we want to tell. And all those things together, they build up to something that eventually will become the character. But it's not a one-on-one process where I say, well, here's my design, and now turn it into the character for the movie.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly. Also, like how the characters interact among each other or with the
yes.
environment, so how everything fits together, right?
Yes, exactly, and what their role in the story is, because it doesn't, you can think of the typical things such as shape and color and the acting, but you can think of something nobody has thought of before. Uh, and it's hard to come up with an example because those are the really golden ideas. But you can come up with things, like shoelaces. We're going to say something about this character because he has curly shoelaces, and it's not something you might think of initially, but it can be something typical for this story, and it might be something this story needs.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Can you maybe take us through some of if you're starting a bigger project, how do you maybe do your research and what is your process? Some bullet points, how you work?
Well, first thing I do is try to understand the story, to understand what story we want to tell. And that often is really hard because in many cases when I'm brought on a project, the story is in the very, very early stages. So I sometimes it's just a couple of words I need to work with. So then it's really hard. But on the other hand, then it's up to me to come up with ideas of what the story could be. And also the development of the character helps the story artist to come up with ideas. The story artists come up with ideas that help me. So it's again, it's really collaborating. What I do is to come up with, I put on paper. It can also be words. Doesn't even have to be drawing, but just the very first things that come to mind. And very often those are the things that everyone thinks of. If I say to you, an old wizard, we all see this Gandalf kind of character, but I do want to put it on paper because I want to get it out of the system. I want to avoid the obvious. And then I start to associate more in a broader way. So, if this is a wizard, but maybe, he has there is something in the story that reminds me of spiders. I don't know, but and that can be something that that's there because I have an experience with spiders that nobody else has. So I come up with, well, maybe a pattern on his head can have to do with spiders, and maybe there can be all kinds of ideas that and you combine elements that are not necessarily obvious, but they can help you to tell the story of this character in a way that's more unique. So that's really what I'm looking for, to take the element that we all think of, because that's cliches are the good thing about it is that we all understand. If we see that character, we instantly know who this is because we all know this wizard character, but maybe we haven't seen him in the shape of a spider before. So if that works for the story, then that can be an approach that we might use. So I try to, and it's funny how it works, because when you sit at your desk and you try to squeeze out the ideas, you kind of get to a certain point and then the ideas stop, and then I go for a walk and I just let it go, and then if you don't try to push the ideas out, and then suddenly your mind starts to connect things, and that's where the creative ideas come from. So what the process really is to understand what the story is about, and then fill my head with as much ideas as I possibly can, and then try to combine those ideas in unique ways.
Yeah, and when you're designing the character, do you spend more time on one character with different variations, or do you put them as a character cast and you just work with them and going back and forth from different characters?
That really depends on the project. I have learned that often you just are assigned a certain character. We want you to work on this character, so then that's what you work on. But I really have learned two very important things. One is you have to think of more than just the character that you're working on. So if you come up with an idea that is outside of this character, then you put that in too, because everything that can help to help the director tell his story, that's useful. And then the other thing, the ideas, the designs that have a foundation that is an idea, those are usually the designs that a director loves more than, I can do, if I have to draw an elephant, I can draw big, small elephants, purple, pink. I can draw all kinds of elephants. But if I have an elephant and he's floating, and I say, well, he has to be floating because in this particular story that is about weight, we need an elephant that needs to float. And if I can explain why I came up with this idea, those are the ideas, because in a story there's nothing there yet. You're creating a universe that has its own rules, and you have to in a situation where everything is possible, you have to create some kind of reason for things to be in a certain way. So if the designs you create tie in with the story you're telling, they have a purpose, that really helps to make this world a believable world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely, because you need to have kind of like a background story or how everything is tied together, and maybe even it's not drawn or like kind of explained in the story, but you connect the dots while watching or reading or just see something. And so what helped you develop your skills, because you go draw outside a lot as well, but like if someone just decides like, okay, I will go draw outside, then it might be really overwhelming for them. So maybe what helped you to do maybe the simplification, or did you take some classes on this specifically? Or
well, I think what is really useful for me is the fact that I don't have to be able to do everything I want to be able to do right now. So if I an example is piano playing. I did not know how to play the piano, and then I bought a digital piano, and I couldn't play, but I wanted to play a piece by Beethoven, and I just started note by note, and after a week I could do the first chord, and it takes a long time, but it's not in I'm going to try this, I fail and I quit, but it's really I can't do this, it's a difficult piece and I don't even know how to play the piano. But if I start one step at a time and I dedicate myself on even 10 minutes a day, that's it, because a lot of people they overestimate what they can do in a week, or they think, well, I'm going to do this, and then it doesn't work, and they stop. But they underestimate what they can do in 5 years. If you do 5 years of life drawing, and even if it's 15 minutes a day, if you do it for 5 years, then you will see a big change. And if you do it 2 hours and you think, well, I can't do this, and you stop, then nothing will happen. So I think long-term dedication is really something that's important. So that's something that I try to incorporate in my daily routine. I start with the life drawing. You have the YouTube channels where you have people posing or YouTube videos, or and just do quick sketches, just to get warmed up, and also to make it a routine that every day before I start working, I have already drawn a couple of people in different poses. So it's still part of my system, and also you keep developing. It gets easier. The first time I did this, when you have these poses, the 1 minute poses, the first time, just and then it's gone, and over time it's like you're stretching this minute. You see much more, and you're better at capturing the lines that are really important, and so that's the other thing that's I think is really important, is to be your own worst critic. Not to be a perfectionist, but really to see when things are not working, you fix them and you don't leave them in. The thing is, you may not easily be satisfied with the work you do, but if the focus is growth and improving, it's not really a problem if the drawing isn't perfect. It's not about doing the perfect drawing. It's really about learning something. For me, that's I am addicted more to that than to do a perfect drawing, to the feeling of, wow, I can do this, and I couldn't do this a couple of months ago, and now it becomes easier and easier. So that's what I'm focusing on for myself, and that's, I think, a mindset where you will achieve growth.
Yeah, definitely, because you learn basically the whole life, and we should never stop improving. And
yes,
definitely. And so you mentioned that you work from home, right? And also when you work with the big studios, do you sometimes fly there, or everything is from your studio?
Sometimes I fly there, but in most cases I just work from home.
Yeah. Oh, nice. And so when you mentioned as well, so they discovered you through social media, or was it like Instagram, or was it somewhere else when you were presenting all of your, sketches and turnarounds and the whole portfolio?
Well, I think these things don't happen overnight. So I was doing freelance illustration in the Netherlands for over 10 years before I even started working for movies. So I already had my experience working with clients, and I had my experience, developing my drawing skills, and starting to work for studios is also a process that happened gradually. I started, they were doing a 2D animated feature in the Netherlands. That was the first movie I worked on, and then from that, someone saw that in Germany, and then I worked on a German movie, and then CTN started happening. I went there and showed my portfolio and met with people, and then, what you often hear is people don't get the jobs because they apply for the job, but because they know somebody who says, well, we need someone for this project, might be something for you, and that happened for me too. But it's the result of putting effort in it over a longer period of time. It's not just calling someone up and then, it's just something that you want really bad, and you put all the effort in it, and then at some point where preparation and opportunity meet, then this happens.
Yeah, definitely, because you already showed that you can keep the deadline, that your character designs are strong, so they know what to expect right away.
Yes.
So it's not like, oh yeah, I can draw, but what else if you can work within the team and all of that, what you mentioned.
Yes, exactly.
And so what do you live from right now? Is it mainly the working with clients, or is it the books, or also you started teaching, right? So how do you combine your income streams?
Well, it's my main my core business is really working for the studios, and then I teach at Schoolism. So those are the two main things that I do, and the other things I do from time to time. So those are that's what I consider more work.
Perfect. And so in the networking, what you still do, is it mainly the conventions, or you go only to CTN, or maybe what are the other networking types? What you do?
Well, I have considered networking as a freelancer a very important part of what I do, because you need to if you just make a beautiful drawing and you put it in a drawer, nobody will know about it. So I've always posted things on posted things online, what I created, or tried to meet with people, or doing conventions. So I am, I know that when you do social media, having a really tight structure works really well. So people who post every Friday a tutorial and every Monday a work of art, those are if you want to generate a following, those are the things that really work. For me, I don't know if it really matches my personality, but it's such a struggle to keep those deadlines. So for me, and also at a certain point, I really started to get health issues trying to keep up with everything, and you just can't. So for me, the social media is really when I have something I feel is worth posting, I will post it. And sometimes that means I have something every day, and sometimes it means it's quiet for a longer period of time. But I think that's for me the way to post things that are honest and sincere. And I don't want to post just for the sake of posting or for the sake of I need to keep up with my followers. I just want to do it on my own pace.
Yeah, because also most of the work what you create for the studios you cannot show anyway.
Yes.
So that's a bit tricky. Then you draw the whole day and you cannot show anything. So.
Yes, I know. Yeah. Especially now when it's really busy, then it's hard to do stuff on the side.
Yeah. And so what are your thoughts on personal branding and kind of the art style development, so that the artist is recognizable? Maybe were you thinking about this when you were drawing and improving every day, or was it mainly about the skill?
Well, I think what you want as an artist is to end up in the place where you can be yourself. So you interviewed Lois also, and she has really this recognizable style. And I think when it comes to marketing and branding, that's working really well for her. But I don't think you can force yourself into something like that if that's not who you are. And I think the thing to keep in mind is, what are you selling? So if for me, I love I was recently contacted to do a children's book series, and the idea was to do one book each year. And I turned it down because I just know, for me, that's horrible, to now define a style and then for years to come to have to do books in that same style. For me, the focus is always on learning and progressing. So I love new projects every time and to dive into a new world and come up with new ideas. And I don't want to be stuck in some. And I try this because this is something that people talk about a lot, and that has always been the case. And I tried it, in the past, where I thought I'm going to be a caricature artist, and I will only do caricatures from now on. And I did 2 or 3 of them, and then I was miserable because I wanted to do a landscape, and suddenly I couldn't do a landscape anymore. So I need this freedom, and I think now I've turned it around, because I am now the person who can help in projects with character design, or sometimes it's a little broader when it's also environments, where I can come up with ideas that help develop the story. That's a different quality than to be really good as an artist and recognizable. For that, I'm recognizable on a different level, maybe. So it's really important what is it that you want to sell. And the most important thing to keep in mind, I think, is what are you passionate about, because that you will be able to do in the long run. You need to understand what it is that you how do you say this, there are people who are shy of other people, and when they have to spend a day with other people, they're drained and they're exhausted. And there are people
like introvert and extrovert.
Yeah, and there are people, they just charge when they see other people, and they can spend the whole day talking to people, and they don't want to stop. So both exist, and you have to find out who you are as an artist, and what you get inspired by, and what you want to do. So some people, they are, really well at finding this one thing they love to do and sell that, and other people, they are all over the place, but they have, in there is a quality that I think also has its place.
Yeah, but it also takes years, as you like mentioned before, so it doesn't have to be stressful for a starting artist, like I don't know what I want to do, because it just comes over time, right?
Yes, and I want to add something to that, because the way you say it is, if you look at it like that, you are waiting for something to happen at some point in the future. And I think it's important to have goals,
to look for it, right?
Yes, that's, but more as a direction, because everything is available to you right now to enjoy what you do. And every time you will be in a situation where there are goals in the future that you have not achieved yet and other people have, and you can look at that and feel miserable, but at the same time you are somewhere right now, and that's, I think, is the beauty of it. You just need a pencil and a piece of paper, and that's what you need to be happy. And whether you use that to do a drawing for yourself or work for Disney, it doesn't really matter, because it's that source of inspiration where you need to get it from.
Yeah, definitely. And when you were starting out, did you have some side job before you got your first art job, or how did you start out with that right after school?
Well, there was a situation that no longer exists anymore. When I got out of art school, they had a subsidy system where I could receive some money every month, which was below the minimum wage, but it was enough that if I had just one or two jobs, I could make a living. And I used that for 2 years, and I used that really to build my network, and from then on, I could make a living. So, but that was a luxury because it doesn't exist anymore. So I was lucky. Yes.
And and what do you consider as like the hardest art career moment? Because usually from those moments we learn the most. Can you like take us to that story, or just like what was that? What happened?
Well. That was a moment where I struggled, because I felt that I was good enough to do drawings for, well, at the time, magazines and newspapers and book covers. I felt I could do better than the things I saw in the stores. But every publisher I visited, they said, yes, I can see this is good stuff, but we are already working with an illustrator, or, why would I start working with someone who's just out of school when we are working with someone we have been working with for years? So, and they didn't want to take the risk. So that was hard, because, they even agreed that sometimes that my work was better than what they had, but still they didn't want to work with me. And it just took a while, and it took persistence. And, what do they say? Quitters never win, winners never quit.
Yeah. So it can be like hundreds no, and then there is the first yes, and then from there it's...
Yes, I think so. If you believe in what you want to do, then maybe you will get there through another path, but and it may even take on a different form than you would have expected. But if you know what it is that you are passionate about, then you will find your way to that, I think. And so
definitely.
That's it.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that you like pencils, or do you have maybe some tools you cannot live without, like a maybe favorite pencil or favorite software?
Well, actually, I love to to try different stuff all the time. Like I said, for me, just a pencil and a piece of paper is enough to make me happy. I do love working traditionally, but I do that mostly just for myself because for work often it's just easier to work digitally. But still, I go back and forth between different media. But Photoshop is something I couldn't do without because it's just so. It's the digital tool for me.
Yeah, like industry standard, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And can you maybe pinpoint one pencil maybe you used recently?
Well, this is a pencil. It's the Blackwing.
Yeah, I use that one as well.
Yes, that's a really nice pencil. So.
Cool. Yeah, because as you said, it's really nice to try different things. So I like to always ask about the new tools just to try it out and see what I like or what I don't like.
Yes, well, I use this one. It's a Copic Multiliner, and it has this brush. Let's see, there's this brush tip, and the nice thing about it is that it's really made to work with Copic markers, so it doesn't dissolve when you add markers on top of it. So that's also really nice.
Oh, very cool. And do you maybe also have like a favorite book you give as a present to your like creative friends or, something?
Well, yeah, I have a couple of books here that I can just quickly go over because I think they're all really cool.
Perfect.
But so many,
it's like a big pile.
Yes. Well, I just show a couple of them. I think this one is really cool. It's not even directly related to art. It's called The Art of Learning. But I think, beside just the technical part of drawing, as a freelancer or also, just as an artist, you go through a mental process as well. And I think this is really a great book that deals with the process of learning. So that's really cool. The Talent Code, I like that.
This one I haven't read.
Because have you read it?
No, this one no. But the learning book I have. Yeah.
Yes. Cool. Yeah, this one is about as artists, I often got, wow, you're so talented, and people reply, well, I could never do that. I can't draw. And this book really says the opposite. Well, greatness isn't born, it's grown. That's the subtitle of the book, and it really has some great points, I think, about the myth of talent, and that it's so much about just putting in the work, because there may be a difference in the abilities we have, but you will never know until you put in all the hours and effort how far you can get. So well, that's interesting too. This one I love. This is Dream Worlds. It has some great information on production design for animation.
Oh, perfect.
This one is really great for painters. Alla Prima is really a great book. This one is really cool. The Animators Survival Kit, probably well known by anyone who deals with animation. This one is great about movie. Yeah, well, this is film directing, but it's really interesting. It's a little technical maybe, but it just as an introduction to filmmaking, really.
So
cool.
Shot by shoot, right? Yeah.
Shot by shot, yeah,
shot by
Stephen Katz.
This
is a nice book. Vivian Meyer. There's a documentary about her, which is really cool. It's she took these photos and nobody even knew about her, and they just, after she died, they found all these photos, but they are really, really amazing. It's a beautiful storytelling compositions. It's really inspiring. Well, I have to show this one, of course, John Singer Sargent.
Yes,
for everyone who loves painting. Well, there's just too much. Well, this one maybe, Drawn to Life.
Yes, also one of my favorites.
Really cool for gestural drawing. those are notes by Walt Stanchfield. And well, no, I have much more, but those are all really, really interesting books.
Oh, perfect. We can put it also in the show notes so everyone in the audience can check it out. And yeah, I have some new books to add to my list as well. Because,
cool.
Yeah, so cool. So you have
Nice.
some, I don't have some. Like, yeah.
Well, that's good, right?
Perfect. Definitely, yeah, because it's always nice to like read more and find out more tools and how we can progress.
Exactly.
And so if we talk about maybe future and what are your maybe future projects you would like to work on, or maybe some dream scenario in like 5 to 10 years if you cannot fail?
Well, actually, the project I'm now working on is really amazing. I think, both the project and the team I'm working with is probably the best project I've worked on so far. So if it's up to me, in 5 years, I'm still working with these guys on the same project, but I think that the movie should be made by then.
Is it still confidential what you are working on?
Yes.
Or? Yeah? Okay.
Yes, I can't say anything about it, but as soon as I can, I will post it. But it's actually, I'm now doing exactly what I set out to do, and it's funny, you were asking about a difficult situation throughout my art career, and I always think it's very hard to really come up with them, because I'm just a happy person, and there are ups and downs, but I even forget the downs maybe. But a while ago, I decided to take a year off and just to go and paint. And for some reason, I've always had in my mind, I am a painter and I should do a gallery show. And so now I thought, well, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to take a year off and just paint. And I took 3 months before I would actually stop working. Those 3 months, I thought a lot about this and what will I do. And by the end of it, the moment I was going to start to take a year off, I just figured, this is an idea I've always had, that I was a painter. But now that I, thought about it and explored the idea of it, I just love what I do right now, much more than, to be in a studio painting all by myself. So I do love to paint, but I, as a job, I just loved doing character design, working with a group of people, telling stories. I think I love it even more. So that's something that I learned a lot about myself. I think it's really important to know yourself and what you want. And if you know what you want, you can just go,
do it.
directly to your goal. Yeah. And so that's where I am right now. And if you ask me what would you want to do 5 years from now, probably the same thing I'm doing right now.
That's perfect. And what about like 100 years, from now? What would you like to be remembered for?
Yes. I always think that's a hard question, because, if you think someone like Napoleon or we remember them, but actually nobody really knows who they were anymore. Nobody knows what their voice sounded like, or if they were funny, so in the end we will all be forgotten. And I think for me it's much more important to live a meaningful life right now, with my family, and hopefully I'll inspire people. And if something of me continues, I hope it will be because of the actions I do in my life, and that that I live on in that way. But I don't really care if my name will be remembered that much.
Yeah, but I'm sure you're already inspiring so many people with your characters and with your classes, so please continue doing so.
I will.
So perfect. And before we say goodbye, maybe you can share like key takeaway and like last piece of advice.
Yes. Well, I think something I mentioned already, that, stay true to your passion. I recently visited the Blender Institute. They do the CG they have this open source CG software, and they had the founder of it. He had a saying, "If everybody does it, it must be stupid," and I thought it was really funny, because it really says something about, you know, do what you love, even if it's something nobody else does. You know, if you follow your own path, it might be, you know, even the system as it is right now, you have character design and this and this, but if you look in reality at a studio, you have a couple of character designers, but one of them is really good at coloring and rendering. The other one has this way of doing all pen drawings, and we all have our specialties, and it's not, you know, and the studios, they will use you just for what you're good at. So don't try to fit into a mold that someone else created, but really, you know, carve out your own path, and people will come to you.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And it was super nice talking to you, and so many great tips and insights.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you really again for taking time, for joining, and also thank you so much for everyone who joined today and watched or listened, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe because I post new videos every week. I will be also super happy if you let me know your thoughts in comments and give the video a thumbs up. You can find all the resources mentioned in this episode at artsideoflife.com. Just type a guest name in the search bar. There is also a couple of free artist resources ready for you. So if you want to listen to the interviews on the go too, make sure to check out the podcast at artsideoflife.com/podcast. Continue to inspire each other, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye!